This is radioactive tritium gas. It's heavy hydrogen gas in a small tube emitting electrons and exciting a chemical coating to make it glow, and it will do so for the next 10 years or so. Tritium is a crucial component of fusion fuel, and humans have already used it to unlock even more energy in atoms. But even though it seems like there's a new fusion breakthrough every week now, fusion is still many years away. Why?
Now entering the facility.
Nuclear fusion is the endpoint of human power production. The only way to get more energy out of mass is to use antimatter, and that stuff is the most expensive material in the known universe, at trillions of dollars per gram. Fusion is even more enticing than nuclear fission, because its fuel is more energy dense, it's only weakly radioactive as a beta emitter, and nuclear fusion reactors can't melt down. This is why fusion is arguably the last large-scale energy technology that humans will ever need. And even just very recently, humans have made some impressive steps towards this end goal.
There are 3 hurdles to clear for commercially viable nuclear fusion. The first is to demonstrate a fusion reaction. The second is to then, like taking a match to gasoline, get more energy out of fusion than you put into making it happen. The last step is to capture that energy as heat. Use that heat to boil water, and then use steam to turn turbines. It's always steam, isn't it? Administrator, why am I saying all this?
Sorry, I was having a nuclear honey-infused Trinity break. The good news is that humans have cleared the first 2 hurdles. Physicist Mark Oliphant achieved a sustained fusion reaction in 1933, and the U.S. National Ignition Facility got more energy out of the reaction than they put in 2022. Unfortunately, those were the easy steps, and they were nearly 100 years apart. Before anyone profits, we have to solve what's been called the greatest structural materials development challenge in history. That sounds pretty hard, right, Aria? Aria?
Sorry, tea break. Cesium-y.
Nuclear fusion may be superior to nuclear fission in almost every way, but it turns out that getting it to happen reliably at a commercial scale for power production has been a lot harder than just stacking some tubes filled with uranium underneath the University of Chicago on a squash court. Yeah, that's how nuclear stuff started. Pretty wild, huh? Right, Aria? Pretty wild? Thanks. Super helpful. Aria, you know something that seems even harder to pull off sometimes than fusion? No, not a man bun, good guess. Keeping my personal data safe online. In fact, as I'm recording this right now, 1 billion personal records were just leaked by an ID verification company. Oops. As a victim of identity theft myself, I take my personal information online very seriously. That's why I use the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. It's getting scary out there, my nerds. Data companies don't just traffic in your name and address anymore. They have your religious beliefs, your sexual orientation, your social security number, hopefully not my browser history because of all the uranium stuff, and much more. Incogni is a personal data removal service that tracks down these data brokers across the internet and gets this precious information deleted from them. All you have to do is create an account, share the bare minimum of personal information that you'd like to nuke from orbit, and then authorize Incogni to remove it. They will legally and automatically contact hundreds of websites on your behalf, and if you know exactly where you don't want to be, Incogni also has a custom removal feature, where all you have to do is give them a URL and they will get to work. I actively use services like Incogni, the first and only personal data removal service independently verified by Deloitte, because my phone number, IP address, and shopping habits are my own dang business, especially when I'm buying uranium ore online, looking at cat photos. If you want to remove your personal data from the internet, Incogni is risk-free for 30 days, and you can get 60% off an annual plan by going to incogni.com/Kyle Hill and entering the offer code Kyle Hill. Okay, I'll admit, doing all that and being safe online is a lot easier than achieving commercial nuclear fusion. But here's why. While we travel to the facility's own fusion reactor, why don't we take the time to learn what it is specifically about fusion that makes proper power production particularly problematic? This chart has been called the most important chart in the history of physics. It shows that, theoretically, if you could separate either a large, less stable nucleus into two more stable, smaller nuclei, or combine two smaller, less stable nuclei into one larger, more stable nucleus, there would be a release of energy, as mass literally turned into energy and made the less massive products more stable. This is, of course, nuclear fission and fusion, respectively. Why hydrogen is the first element mentioned in any talk about fusion is because if you want the process as practical as possible, you want the lightest element you can get, as larger atoms are harder to force together against their inherent electromagnetic forces. For example, once you try to fuse iron, it actually takes more energy than the energy that you get out of the process. That's why stars die.
Oh, that's fun.
Hydrogen with extra neutrons, deuterium and tritium, is used because at the temperatures we can reliably create, its fusion is the most achievable. Of course, energy isn't some nebulous thing my high school girlfriend tried to assign spiritual importance to. What's specifically released in fusion is charged alpha particles or helium, high-energy neutrons, and occasionally gamma-ray photons. These are what a working fusion reactor will have to turn into heat and then eventually electricity. The best way to get this reaction going that we've found so far is to create magnetically confined plasma, where heavy hydrogen gas can fuse together. The design simultaneously keeps the plasma hot with the resulting charged alpha particles and heats the surrounding of the plasma with neutral neutrons which escape the magnetic confinement. In a fission reactor, you can have the heat produced by the reactions go directly into the water that you want to heat up to make steam, electricity, etc. But in a fusion reactor, you can't do that because you don't have simple uranium fuel pellets. You have a very fragile gas plasma at 100 million degrees corralled by superconducting magnets and very hard to control ring-like things. You can't have that interact with a fluid like water because it will just dissipate and mess everything up. And so, in a fusion reactor, you have to heat up the reactor itself and then transfer that heat into water and then steam and electricity. And so far, we haven't been able to find or make any materials that can handle that in-between part.
Well, why not?
Well, Arya, it turns out it's pretty hard to engineer materials to handle star-like conditions. Ooh. The term tokamak was coined in 1957 by Soviet physicists. It's actually an acronym that stands for Toroidalnaya Kamera Magnetimi Katushkami, which is toroidal chamber with magnetic coils. To-ka-ma-k. Today, this donut-shaped thing is what's most associated with nuclear fusion because, simply put, it's the most successful design we've come up with so far. The largest tokamak in the world is currently being built in France by an international collaboration called ITER. And when it's done, it's going to be one of the most complicated machines humans have ever built, as you can see. Look at the size of this thing compared to me. It's going to be huge. The reactor is housed in a giant cryostat, which will be the largest cryogenic vacuum chamber on Earth. Inside this will be another vacuum vessel where the fusion will actually take place. That fusion will be controlled and shaped by an enormous central solenoid and superconducting toroidal and poloidal field magnets. Maybe the most important part here is the blanket, which in the experimental version of the machine will act mostly as a heat and radiation shield. But in a fully operational reactor, the actively cooled blanket will be the main heat transfer component that heats up water or another fluid to make steam and finally electricity. However, even though there is some extremely impressive engineering at ITER right now, from the same company who covered the Chernobyl sarcophagus no less, this machine is still at least a decade out from generating power. Why? So, we have the physics, we have the fuel, and we've made machines that can make it happen. So why, oh why, do we not have fusion power yet?
Yeah, he's not going to make it.
Well, I'll make it just fine, Arya, once I upload the rest of my brain to the basilisk.
What?
What? This recent paper by Cohen Tanugi et al. Describes the final hurdle well. We simply do not have the materials that can withstand the fusion processes in a reactor. At least not for the decades we want a power plant to run. Plus, the paper has a graphical abstract, and I love those. Let's use it. The first engineering problem is temperature. Look at the range of temperatures the reactor has to withstand in a relatively small space. The superconducting magnets on the outside need to be at cryogenic temperatures, while on the inside the walls need to endure over 1000 Kelvin. Those enormous magnets also create huge mechanical stresses in the vessel itself that can reach 1 billion pascals or 10,000 atmospheres of pressure. Then there's the intense neutron radiation. Yes, neutrons are what fusion reactors need to capture for heat, but metals constantly bombarded with neutrons both become radioactive and change physical structure, which weakens the material. The final big problem, and there are many more small problems, is that we don't have a large supply of tritium, the other half of fusion fuel. So a reactor is going to have to make it inside of the reactor via a complicated transmutation process of lithium in the blanket. And even though the on-site inventory of radioactive tritium may be less than a single kilogram at a power plant, it's likely that the public is going to freak out if even a gram of the stuff leaks somewhere. If it did, it would be harmless, but, well, we know what the general reaction to radiation in the environment is. The Cohen-Tanugi paper puts it bluntly. No known, currently mass-manufacturable materials can simultaneously withstand the radiation, temperature conditions, and elemental transmutation that will occur in plasma-facing components on the timescale of months or more. It's going to take many years to engineer these materials. Look at that radiation number. 100 trillion high-energy neutrons going through the blanket per square centimeter per second. Hold out your hand right now. Now imagine 10 million billion neutrons flying through it in 1 second. That's what a fusion reactor's walls have to be engineered to handle, and yes, you would lose that hand. And I should quickly say that although new fusion companies seem to be popping up all the time, like Helion, with designs very un-tokamak, none of these private companies are much closer to solving the fundamental material challenges that stand in the way of power production. These are unprecedented challenges, and right now the fusion systems trying to meet these challenges are at a low TRL, or technology readiness level. It looks like fusion power at a commercial scale is still many years away. But these are exciting times. There's new companies, new interest in fusion, and a lot of new funding. I think it is possible that we have fusion power in our lifetimes, but by then, I'm likely to be a lot grayer. Until next time. I'd look like a science wizard.
Now exiting the facility.
Thank you all for watching, and thanks so much to the very nerdy staff here at the facility, Man Bun, for their direct and substantial support in the creation of this here video. If you want to join the facility, if you want to join our Discord and talk to me all day, and they do, if you want the Patreon-only podcast with me and Adolf, you want videos early, you want monthly live streams with yours truly, you can go to patreon.com/Kyle Hill and drape on a silky white lab coat. And if you support us just enough, you get your name in every single video that we can feasibly fit your names in, because as you can see, there's so many of you. Thank you so much. I don't know how I'm gonna pass the time. Look, I'm not down on fusion. It just seems like what we need to make fusion actually commercially viable at scale is gonna be something like coordinated international efforts and funding and regulation and science that unfortunately doesn't seem super likely right now, given the state of the world. And I don't know, maybe nuclear fusion in a couple years will turn out like nuclear fission, and private industries willing to assume a lot of risk and funding will come in and make it possible for us to have like free energy. And then we could all have hot tubs? Hell yeah. Thanks for watching. Hot Tub City!